I started my now dead viewer votings after BFDI Mini Delicious, but before BFDI Mini Replicas. And every time an episode released, I would upload a poll to see who you wanted to stay. The first episode was BFDI Mini Replicas 1, hosted by the announcer and Fiery Speaker Box. Electric Blocky was pulled back by his own cord and received no help, but Blue Spongy was tripped by Baby Quinny's pacifier. My audience wanted Electric Blocky to stay, and Blue Spongy was eliminated. Acid Tennis Ball was screwed over by Ender Rocky, Ninja Woody, and Tack, while Fire Ant was screwed over by Fire Genie Jr. My audience rooted massively for Acid Tennis Ball, and Fire Ant was eliminated. Electric Blocky Snail died, and Acid Tennis Ball screwed over Baby Queenie Snail, so they were both up for elimination. I forgot to make a poll when the episode released, but the voting ended in a tie. This was also the only time they ever did a tiebreaker, and it went in Electric Blocky's favor, meaning Baby Queenie was eliminated. Ender Rocky couldn't survive in water, and Long Marker had his cat removed by Fire Genie Jr. The audience was begging for Long Marker to survive, and he did. The voting wasn't revealed in that episode or in the compilation. Mechanical Pencil was thrown off by Electric Blocky, and Ninja Woody was shot down by Acid Tennis Ball. The audience wanted Ninja Woody to survive, but the voters thought otherwise. Tech was knocked into the air by a dodgeball, and Quartz's dodgeball was caught by Electric Blocky. Both the audience and the voters sympathized for Tack. Mechanical Pencil was suddenly killed by Acid Tennis Ball, and Fire Genie Jr. fell into a fault line. Even though the audience was filled with die-hard Mechanical Pencil fans, Fire Genie Jr. survived. Long Marker pushed Tack off, but got karma from Electric Blocky. Once again, both my audience and the voters were sympathetic for Tack. Fire Genie Jr. was squashed by the first potato, and Acid Tennis Ball was too distracted to throw the second potato. Acid Tennis Ball's sad backstory absolutely bombed Fire Genie Jr.'s performance. Electric Blocky made a dumb move, and Tack was outwitted by Acid Tennis Ball. My audience lost their sympathy, and the voters wanted an epic contestant to win. Despite their lack of support, of all the three finalists, the audience wanted Tack to win. Next up, it's time for BFDI Mini Natural. This time, the hosts are Leafy and Tree. Lotus Flower was squashed by Geode, and Grapes was screwed over by Seashell. The audience was begging for Lotus Flower to stay, but the vote ended in a tie. I wanted a tiebreaker like last time, but they showed the exact voting results in Grapes' favor. Even though Spruce Tree was completely frozen, Beehive and Autoleaf were both put up for elimination. My audience and the voters are both caught off guard, so they wanted Beehive to stay in the game. Geode and Aurora Borealis were the unlucky ones to fall to Evil Leafy. I forgot to make a poll for that episode, but the voters were caught off guard because they wanted Geode and Aurora Borealis to be in the finale, so they voted for Geode. Spruce Tree was screwed over by Grapes, and Red Currant tried to dig over the wall, and that didn't count. I forgot to make a poll for that episode too, but the voters chose Red Currant. Aurora Borealis threw Chestnut off, but fell under the outline. My audience was begging for Chestnut to survive, but the voters were more caring about Aurora Borealis' relationship with Seashell. Seashell sacrificed himself for Spruce Tree, while Beehive was screwed over by the bees from the last bee's nest he broke. My audience was caring for Aurora Borealis' relationship with Seashell, but the voters were sympathetic for Beehive. Red Currant and Geode won the rejoin contest, but Geode was killed and replaced with Autoleaf. My audience was begging for Autoleaf to rejoin, but the voters wanted to play fair. Aurora Borealis was frozen by Spruce Tree, and Grapes drowned. My audience was begging for Aurora Borealis to stay, but the voters were very split and ultimately decided that Grapes should stay. Beehive and Spruce Tree were both put up for elimination despite being the only ones to do the contest. My audience begged for Beehive to stay, but the voters were caught off guard, so the vote ended in a tie. The entire episode was spent in the contest without caring for the elimination, but instead of doing exactly what they did last season, they did exactly what they did in episode 2, reveal the actual number of votes. Red Currant was eaten, and Grapes was thrown off. My audience was begging for Red Currant to survive to the finale, even though he's a rejoiner, and the vote ended in a tie once again. Once again, I wanted a tiebreaker, but they showed the exact number of votes. And out of the final three, the person who my audience most wanted to win was Grapes. Now it's time for BFDI Mini Resort, hosted by Nine and Spongy. Coconut Water and Sandcastle were the last team to finish the Frisbee contest. The audience was dying for Sandcastle, but the voters were all Coconut Water fans. Sunscreen destroyed Diving Board Sandcastle and didn't vote as Sandcastle himself. My audience was sympathetic for Diving Board, but the voters didn't want another rampage. Coconut Water defied the odds, and Orange Surfboard cheated. My audience saw Orange Surfboard as annoying, and the voters knew what to do with cheaters. Beach Ball ruined Watermelon Slice's photo, and Palmy accidentally took the worst photo. I was begging for Palmy to survive, but the audience and the voters were both sympathetic for Watermelon Slice. Coconut Water made an ugly face, and Sunscreen tried to burp through a different way. My audience was sympathetic for Coconut Water, but the voters listened to Sunscreen's pleas to stay. Radio went to high ground, while Birdie landed straight into roller skate and survived. My audience loved Radio's unique personality, but the voters didn't want a criminal's recommended character in the show. Watermelon Slice was thrown off by Rafty and repelled by Sunscreen, while Pearl wanted to miss the shell's boat, but was kicked off by Beach Ball. My audience was sympathetic for Pearl, but the voters hated bribery. Watermelon Slice was squashed by a thwomp, and Beach Ball had his treasure stolen by Sunscreen. My audience was sympathetic for Watermelon Slice, but the voters were sympathetic for Beach Ball. Rafty and Birdie were the only ones that didn't eat watermelons. My audience followed the Debaters Never Win rule, but the voters saw great promise in Birdie. Beach Ball exploded Sunscreen, and Birdie popped Beach Ball. I wanted Beach Ball to survive to the finale, but the audience and the voters spammed support for Sunscreen. I actually don't know why, but the person who the audience seems most fit to win is Sunscreen. And finally, we're at Season 9, which is less than a day old. It's called BFDI Mini Redux. None of us know who the hosts are, but I think Announcer is one of them. Butt Slide Man was thrown into space, and Long Marker was tipped over. Currently, I want Long Marker to survive, but the only 6 people who voted on the post unanimously voted Butt Slide Man. Who do you want to survive the first elimination of BFDI Mini Redux? Tell me down in the comment section below.